friends. It is midday here in New York City. Actually now it's 12:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are here for our lunchtime live. I have a couple of pages that I'm finishing up in this book, Needle Lake by Justine Chapman. No, Needle Lake by Justine Champagne. I have about 10 pages left to read, so I will continue reading until the friends join. Hey, Rumi24, Runwright Reads Girly, she is in the house. I have about 5 pages left to read in my book, so I'm just reading for a minute or 2 or 3. Oh, okay, there's an epilogue. Oh my. Okay, so I'm finished. I read Needle Lake by Justine Champagne, and it is a coming of age story. And we're reading a first person narrative of a 14-year-old girl. She's been living in Washington State. She lives with her mother and her mother's girlfriend, and um, I'm not sure if the girlfriend lives there. She lives with her mother, and her mother runs a kind of boarding house for people who work in the logging industry. And they also have some kind of a store in the house, so like a little convenience store. And she's had a little bit of a difficult social life. So the book is dedicated to, I told you yesterday, the book is dedicated to autistic girls in every place and time. But it's not clear that this main character is autistic. She may seem like she presents maybe a little different from what you would expect a 14-year-old girl to be. But what is a 14-year-old girl supposed to do? Like, she's interested in a lot of things. She is pretty introverted in that she prefers her own company, but she likes learning things. She's very involved in like a geography B she's been studying for, and she is um, kind of a savant when it comes to geographical facts. She knows everything about countries, and she actually studies micro places so she can be tested on them. So I love this. I love the presentation of this girl. And I love the fact that because it is a first person narrative, she presents herself to us. She introduces herself to the reader. So she doesn't label herself. There are all these people coming in who may want to label her, but she doesn't accept any of the labels. So she is introducing herself to the reader, and you get to know her without any labels. You get to see her habits and her curiosities, and I like that because I think sometimes we're too quick sometimes to slap labels on people, and so I like that we get to meet this young girl on her own terms. What changes her life, however, is that a cousin comes to stay, and this cousin is a couple of years older, 3 years older, and she is very I don't know what the word is, but she wants to change everything. This cousin, she comes into the household and she is looking to change everything. She obviously has some social problems as well. I shouldn't say problem. She has some social, her way of socializing is very different. But whereas our main character, whereas our main character, Ida, her social her social habits are for her. Like, these are things that she does for herself and to make her life what she wants it to be. Elna, who's the cousin who is 17, Elna is more inclined to um to impact you with her social habits. So her brand of socializing is to change whatever you were doing to what she wants. And she has a very commanding personality. So the story is about their interaction and what of their lives change as individuals, but also together. So it is a little bit of a coming of age kind of story, but it's all set within a pretty short period of time. Um, because the book is set in Washington State, it is cold. It is around Christmas. So it's also a Christmas setting, but it's not a Christmas story. Unless you say Christmas story is supposed to have family reuniting and scenes from a Christmas being spent, then yes, that's a Christmas story. But aside from that, it just happens around Christmas time. Um, and I think that's just to give you a little bit of a setting, just to give you a little bit of a change of pace. Um, Maybe give you an opportunity to compare how these characters spend Christmas versus maybe what you consider to be a traditional family Christmas event. But yeah, the book is set in around this time, fall to winter, November, December setting. The cover is beautiful. It's like a block of ice with flowers encased inside. And it's very meaningful to the story because we do get um, characters who seem to be frozen in time in some respects. Um, but we also get that in a little bit more of a literal sense. So I don't know how to describe the book aside from that. I don't want to tell you too much about the synopsis because it is definitely a book that I would recommend. I got an early copy, so this is an early copy from the publishers. The book is set to be published in the first week in December. So I will be hyping this up. I will hype this up because I think this is a book that could be a really good conversation starter about how people may present different from your expectations, but also challenging your expectations, like, getting you to think, why would you want someone to present in a different way? What is wrong with the way they present? Um, our main character, Ida, she's very independent. Um, she has a physical challenge. Like, she was born with a hole in her heart, which tells you on the first page. So that's not a spoiler. It's also in this first line of the synopsis. 14-year-old Ida was born with a hole in her heart. And so it gives you an opportunity to talk and think about how our birth may impact, other parts of our lives. And also it gives a little bit of a background for some of the other things that happens with this main character. So teenage main character. It is not a YA book. It is definitely for adults. It is It's really it's really interesting. It's really interesting. And it's a short read. It's just about 240 pages, and a lot happens. A lot happens, but there's also a little bit of a quiet study, like a quiet period. There is an adult character in here, and she is not a main character. She's a support, and she is a standout support. And I like that because we get three instances of this main character who does something very important. In all three instances, does something very important to connect with Ida. And it's a really great example of advocacy. It's a really great example of showing up for people in the ways that they need, not always in the ways that you want to. Like recognizing what people may need, even aside from what they may say, and just being intentional about looking for opportunities to provide that if you really want to be supportive for someone. So I like one of my favorite representations of supporting character, I think, is that person that I'm talking about in here. So when the book comes out, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. But for now, I loved it. I loved it. So this was the book. This was one of the two books that the publisher sent me yesterday. We unboxed this along with this one. Now, this one is a lot bigger, and it's nonfiction. And it's also the fourth book in a series by Alison Ware on England's medieval queens, medieval royalty. And so I haven't yet read, even though I own a couple of the other books in the series, I haven't yet read any of the books in the series. So while I have this, and I'm very happy to have it, I will not be reading this right away. I'm going to read one of the earlier books. I'm going to have to look up to see if it's advisable, like if you need to read the four books in order. I feel like it's nonfiction, you could dip in and out. But I think I want to read one of the earlier books before I get to book 4. So I have this, very excited to have Queens at War by Alison Ware, England's Medieval Queens. But I probably won't be reading it right away. I'm going to be reading something else by her first. So very excited to have finished this. Other thing that was really exciting about receiving this book was I told you yesterday that, well, I've told you a few times if you've been here before, I do this challenge. I challenge myself to see how many countries I could read from in the year, as well as, of course, how many states in the United States I can read from. And this book was set in Washington State. So I get to, and I hadn't read anything from Washington State previously this year. So I get to, right here, top left. And I'm going to try to match maybe one of the colors a little bit. So I could do like the icy blue or this dark like forest green, which I think is very representative because, like I said, the characters are around a logging industry in Washington State. So I'm going to try this green one. And we're going to color. It's not great. It's not like a great match, but it's okay. Most of the states that I have colored, states and countries that I've colored in my reading journal, they don't match the cover of the book, so that's all right. But I'm so excited I got to color another state. And what's important, it's not important. What's interesting about this book being set in Washington State is that we get a little bit, well, sometimes it doesn't matter where the book is set. Like, it's a story that could happen anywhere. This story represents Washington State because we see the characters, we see them in settings throughout the story. We see settings that reflect what is happening in the book. So because it is happening in the Pacific, close to the Pacific, well, it is happening in the Pacific Northwest, close to the Pacific Trail. We get mention of the Pacific Trail in here. We get characters who are hiking the Pacific Trail, stopping into the store. So, we get a sense of how close it will be to the hiking trail. We get mention and discussion of some of the things that would happen in the logging industry, like some of the people who board in the house are loggers, like migrant workers, or temporary workers, or seasonal workers, I guess is the title. Seasonal workers would be their occupation. So we get mention of people who have come to work in the logging industry around this time. And it's also explained in here why they do logging at this time of the year. So little tidbits about the state that are mentioned in here. So I like that. I like that we get to actually visit the state through this book. It's not just that's where the author is from, so that's where the book is set. We get a little bit of an introduction to the geographical setting of the book by reading this novel. And it's really well incorporated into the narrative, so it doesn't feel like a geography lesson, even though our main character is a little bit of a geography fanatic, should I use that word? But I really enjoyed my time with this book. It was a pretty short read. I started reading it yesterday and I finished it while we came on here, so that was fun. So let me know what you've been reading since we talked yesterday. Would love to hear that. Yesterday in our live, we had a little bit of a reading sprint. We read for, was it 10 minutes? And that's when I started this book. So if you started something yesterday and you've been reading it since then, would love to hear from you about that. Rumi24 Runwright Reads Girlie says, by the way, it is 6:10. I talked for so long. Wow. So now it is 6:21, I'm assuming, in Slovakia. Hi, Rumi24 Runwright Reads Girlie. It is 12:21 Eastern Standard Time. We are here in New York City. So updating my reading journal. I'm going to put the next book. Let me go get my picture because I actually printed the picture already. 1 second. So we're just spending some time together today. Today we're just spending some time together doing bookish things. It is publication day here in the United States. So new books have been published today, but I get the sense not as many new books coming out today as earlier in the year. So this is how I do my reading journal. After I've read the book, I get a little picture and I add it to my page. So I'll put it probably on this side. I usually stagger them. So I'll put it here and then I'll write a little something about the book. So got my glue stick ready. And I'm going to add my picture and I'm going to write a little something about the book. And sometimes it takes me a long time to print my pictures. So my reading journal is not always as updated as I am making it seem right now. Like I just finished a book and here it is. I am putting in my picture. But every now and then we plan ahead and it works out just fine. So things falling on my journal. So put it in and then we're going to write a little something. That for me will be book number 85 of 2025. And I track my books in different ways. So I will write something when we have our next little break. But yeah, I love this. So then I log it on my Goodreads and I log it in my spreadsheet and then we could put it away. I'm so excited. I'm so happy when I finish reading a book because I make all these plans, make all these lists of books that I want to read. And then sometimes it takes a while to actually read them. So happy to have finished, made a goal, made a plan, and actually accomplished it. Why do I feel so accomplished when I've finished reading a book for fun? It's not like I read a book for a class, but I did learn some things. I did learn some things through reading that book. The story actually ended on a cliffhanger, like a cliffhanger. I was like, no, there's no way you could end the book like that, Miss Champagne. However, there was an epilogue that cleared all of that up. And so it was fine. It was fine. I enjoyed my time with that story. So thank you so much to the publishers for having gifted me this book. I'm so excited. And it's an early copy. Did I mention that? The book isn't yet published. So I have a book 2 weeks before publication date because today's only the 18th. So 2 weeks before publication date, and I received the book. I've read the book. I can review the book, and I'm putting it in my reading journal. I just feel so accomplished. All right, so we need to start thinking about what we're going to read next. Yeah, right. Ruby24 says, yeah, and sometimes little isn't little. Yeah. We're going to think about what we're going to read next. So I have a stack of books. And I told you about my 10 before the end challenge. But I don't know if I'm going to read any of those books that I put on the list because I'm currently reading 3 books, 2 of which are from that list. So I started reading for the challenge, 10 before the end challenge. I started reading The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kiran Desai, and I'm not finished. I'm also buddy reading another one of the books on the list, and I'm not finished because I'm reading at the pace with my buddies. So I'm also using this spinning wheel to choose the books. So that kind of is a little bit of a cheat because I'm reading that book without having spun it on the wheel. So I'm going to wait until I do the wheel spin and that book comes up for me to tell you which book that is. So you probably guess if you compared my list. However, I think I want to start, and I'm also reading another book that's not on the list because I'm buddy reading this book. I'm buddy reading The Wright Brothers by David McCullough. And even though it looks like I still have a lot to go. No, hold on. Oh yeah, I do have, it seems like I have a lot to go. It's only have two more chapters to read. They're kind of long chapters. And then all of this is acknowledgments and notes. So the all that I have left to read is just this section. So it looks like a lot, but it's two chapters and afterward, let me see. Epilogue. So two chapters and then epilogue and some photos. So it might look like a lot, but I think I'll probably be finished with this by tomorrow. So I think I could start a new book. And I don't know what to choose. Oh yeah, I started another book from the list too in the live last week. Okay, I'm reading a lot of books. but here's how I'm presenting my case to you. I picked this up yesterday and I read it in its entirety. And while I was reading this, I wasn't reading anything else. And I feel like I could do that again. I feel like I could pick up something that's kind of short and just read it all the way through before returning to any of these other things. You know, sometimes that's what you have to do. On BookTube and, in the bookish social community, you hear a lot about reading slumps. And it's not something that I think too much actively about. But sometimes if you are not being pulled to read any of the books that you're currently reading, sometimes it just means that you should pick up something else. So thinking about books that I have around, not any of the books that are on the challenge, because we're going to use the wheel to do that. It's crazy. That's crazy. But thinking about other books that I have around or books that are on my TBR that I could pick up, that I want to pick up, like right now, a book that I could pick up and read kind of quickly from beginning to end that I haven't yet read or started for any reason. Let me think. I'm looking at my TBR, my big extensive TBR, my 2-page long pictures of books that I want to read. And there's several on here that I have and that I could pick up. But a lot of them are long books. A lot of these are big books. So we're going to look at the shelves. I think what we're going to do is look at the shelves, see if we can find something that looks small, looks inviting. I'll be right back. Okay. I'm looking for a book that I want to read all in one go. It would be great if I found a book that was a new release. Let's see. Okay, I have three candidates. I have three candidates for the book that I'm going to read today. Here are the three books. One is a Christmas book. It's Yours for the Season by Emily Stone. It is just around 300 pages, 310 pages. And it is a second chance romance set at Christmas. I read something from this author last year around Christmas time, and I think the year before that, because I read Always in December, and I think I read A Winter Wish, and I really enjoyed both of those. They were um, really good romance set around Christmas. Very good atmospheric books. So I have this, but I think it's not this. Then I picked up this one because I have put this book on TBRs about 20 times. This is V.S. Naipaul's A Bend in the River. Naipaul was born in Trinidad and spent most of his adult life in the UK. Traveled a bit, wrote a little, writes or wrote, he wrote a little bit about Caribbean life, Trinidadian life, wrote one of my favorite books, um, um, A House for Mr. Biswas. Um, I've loved almost everything that I have read from him. He wrote Miguel Street. He won the Booker Prize. He won the Booker Prize for In a Free State, which is probably not up there because it might be with my Caribbean fiction, because we count V.S. Naipaul as a Caribbean writer. Um, but somehow, every time I pick up this book, I put it back. It is about 275 pages, and it's not this. I think if I start this, it would just be a book that I read like maybe 50 pages of today, and then it gets added on to books that I am currently reading, and I don't want that. So because yesterday and in a previous live before that, I think we went through a couple of book lists, and we're at the time where a lot of these publications are releasing their best books of the year. I have this book, which the publisher had sent me earlier in the year. This is The Tell, a memoir by Amy Griffin. And this appears on some lists. This is Amy Griffin right here. She lives in New York City. She is the founder of the investment firm G9 Ventures. And this book, it says it's an astonishing memoir that reveals how far we will go to protect ourselves and the healing made possible when we confront our secrets and begin to share our stories. It's a little bit, I think, about Amy Griffin's life growing up and some of the experiences that she had, some of which were traumatic, and maybe how they, helped guide her into where she got to. One of the discussion questions on the pub sheet that came with this lets us know that she grew up in Texas. So I wonder how much of this book is going to be set in Texas, because I'm being intentional. I'm being strategic about how I'm choosing my books. I don't have a book yet that's set in Texas this year. So can we get away with this book being our Texas read? I don't know. So I think this is going to be the book that I read today. It's around 265 pages. Around 265 pages. So we're going to start reading. We're going to have some reading sprints, and this is a book I'm going to start reading in my reading sprints because it will be nice. It will be really nice to finish another book in the next couple of days. Maybe not make progress on the 10 before the end challenge, but still finish a book that I want to read. I'd like to read all the books that I tell you about. So it'd be nice to read this. It was an Oprah's book club pick earlier this year, and I've seen it on the lists. So when we revisit some of those lists, I'll be able to say I read that book. It has, this is not just like a random book. Are there random books? This book has gotten a lot of attention this year. It's showing up now in some of the best books of the year. And there have been some amazing books that were released this year. So it'll be good to be able to participate in a conversation about this book. So we're going to set a couple of reading sprints. It is 12:38. I'm going to let you find a book or essay or a magazine article or a poem that you want to read. And we're going to start a reading sprint, maybe for 20 minutes, and see where we get to. So this book is blurbed by some big names. It's blurbed by Chanel Miller, who's the author of Know My Name. It is blurbed by Adam Grant, who is the author on here of Hidden Potential, but I've read other things by Adam Grant, including his book, I think, Originals, which I really enjoyed. I think that was the title. The book is also blurbed by Hania Yanagihara. Is that how you pronounce that name? Author Jessica Knoll also blurbs this. She is the author of Bright Young Women. And Susan Cain, who is the author of Quiet and Bittersweet, she also has a blurb on here. The book also has a couple of blurbs from people who are not authors, but you know them. One is Gloria Steinem, and one is Mariska Hargitay. Mariska Hargitay, you'll know her from Law and Order SVU, the Special Victims Unit. Mariska Hargitay blurbs this book as well. So I am not sure exactly what to expect, other than I think this is going to be an interesting read. So we're going to read for 20 minutes. Let me know if you are reading along with me, what you're reading. Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. So I'll see you at 1 o'clock. Rumi24 said her cat is sleeping on her, so she can't get her book. Okay, Rumi, I understand. Maybe the cat will only take a cat nap. I'm just logging my book into Goodreads, because if it's not on Goodreads, are you even reading it? So there are a couple of similarities. Yay! The cat took a cat nap. She left. Okay, let me know what you're reading, Rumi. So there are a couple of similarities in this book. We're reading about Amy's youth. I'm not sure exactly how old she is at the time that she's introducing herself to us as a girl growing up in Texas. And she has her family owns a convenience store. So a little bit of a similarity in that with this, because again, we have a young girl and her mother is running a store that she works in, at least temporarily or part-time when she's out of school. And same here. I used to do this thing called book links where I would talk about the similarities between two books that I read, one after the other, and what was similar, was common thread that wove through them. And it's funny because that just came out of nowhere. Okay, just about 2 more minutes. Okay. All right, I got to page 43, and so far, the author is telling us about her early life. So we first meet her as a child growing up in Texas, and her family owns a convenience store. And she tells you a little bit about the background of the convenience store, that it was a store that her grandparents started. And very early, just a few years after he opened the store, or just a few years after the store was opened, her grandfather passed away. And so it was her grandmother who just took over the business completely and had to run it while she was also raising her children as a young widow. And eventually, her parents, or her father, took over the store, and her parents ran it. And so she grew up with that visual of her grandmother being a very powerful woman, but also that later in life, her grandmother also married a man, I guess, because during that time, it was probably easier for women to, um, it was probably easier if you weren't if you weren't thinking about the woman as being single, if there was a man to associate with her. And so she's giving you a little bit of the background of the social dynamics, um, from her grandmother's time until, we're reading about her coming of age as a young adult, moving from Texas, going to college in Virginia. She goes to school on a volleyball scholarship, and kind of what that is like, and how her relationship with her father and other people when she was very young kind of made her feel like she had to perform in order to get their accolades. So people told her that they thought that she acted like she acted like she thought she was better than other people. And so I guess she just accepted that she needed to be better. And so it's about her attempts to prove herself perfect, because she was all about trying to win their affection through her perfection. So, a little bit of those, the thoughts of a young woman, coming of age thoughts, as she is figuring out how she will interact with the world based on the world's expectations of her. So a little bit of the dynamics of her family, her relationship with her father. She mentions him several times here about, things that he would tell her about growing up and so on. So um, it's pretty engaging. It is pretty engaging. So I think I will continue to read on. But yeah, let me hear from you. Rumi24, Runwright Reads Girly says, I read 10 pages and a half from the next page. Okay, officially, I read 11 pages. Yay! Considering especially that you also started late because your cat was taking a cat nap on you. So very, very excited for your 11 pages. Let me know what you were reading and how you found it. So for me so far, this is like a 4-star book. I know that there is some mention of assault that's going to happen in the book. Number one, because the book is blurbed by Chanel Miller, who famously told her story of being assaulted on a university campus, um, and being assaulted by someone who everybody thought um, would not be capable of committing an assault. So they didn't at first want to believe her. Not just that they didn't believe her, but they didn't want to believe her. So Chanel Miller's story, her memoir, Know My Name, is about her experience with that kind of violence. Um, Also, because the book is blurbed by Mariska Hargitay, like I said, from Law and Order Special Victims Unit, it makes you aware that some of that is going to be mentioned here. And then in the beginning of the book, there's a little bit of a warning. Before the dedication, it says, warning, this book contains depictions of sexual assault. Reader discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself while reading. So um, there are a few present moments before our author starts telling you her story, where she tells you that she is a runner. She runs almost every day, and she's been running everywhere she goes. And at some point, someone asked her about her running, like why she's always running. But it triggered a question inside of her that she's never really asked, why she's always running. Because while she runs, she hadn't really given a voice to the why. So it's interesting. It's interesting getting into this story as someone who used to run a lot and have been wanting to get back into running. Just I'm I'm wary. I'm wary because I keep hearing some things that I am cautious about. The the time just also it's a little difficult sometimes to align time to run. Um, it's always either too hot or too cold. Like now it's cold in New York City. In the summer when I have the time, it's too hot. So oh, Rumi24 is reading City of Ghosts, which we've talked about, and she said, I want to tell you what happened, but I'm on page 221, and it would be a big spoiler for the whole book. Yeah, that. Don't tell me. As much as you want to, don't tell me, because not just for me, because I could handle a spoiler. I could handle a spoiler. If it's not, especially if it's not a book I'm going to read soon. But other people who are watching or who will watch this later may not want the spoiler. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for not telling us the spoiler, she says. One thing I can tell you, it's getting really tempting and sad. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I'm not I'm not looking for a sad book right now. I'm not. Oh, I got $1. I found $1 in my pocket. Oh man. The United States of America, $1. One buckaroo. All right, so we are going to end it here for today because I need to go do some things. I have to go to the library. Um, I have to go to the library. I have to print out a QR code for my daughter to scan her school computer. Um, and I have to print some things for a program that we're going to be doing this weekend. So I'm going to go to the library because at my library I get 30 pages of printing for free. And Ruby says, yay, $1, such a lot. Listen, $1 might not seem like a lot on its own, but add it to other things and it definitely adds up. Um, yeah. So we will end it here today and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I chatted a little bit about my book that I just finished. I finished it with you. You got to see my reaction to the final few pages of this book and I really enjoyed it. I said it was a 4-star. Did I tell you what rating? I think on Goodreads I'm giving it a 5. I'm giving it a 5, but for now, let me sit with. I didn't write my review yet. I just put on Goodreads that I had finished it. So let me think about what my rating and my review actually is like. But I told you, some of my thoughts as I was reading the book. And so far in reading this, I think right now this is a 4 because I can connect with what the author is talking about, even if it's not my own experience. Like, her talking a little bit about growing up in a family with expectations and making this change as she moves away from home. One of the push factors, but also one of the really strong pulls for her to go to college, and how comparing her early childhood with her life on the college campus is. So, and of course her interest in running and comparing her early interest with running with the beginning of the book where she tells you a little bit about where her running kind of takes her and how it helps her to process things. So I'm connecting with the author even if I don't share her experience. Thankfully don't share her experience. But yeah, looking forward to continuing this one as well as to tell you about that I've read it, to tell you that I have read it when it comes up on another list that we will process. So maybe tomorrow we'll have another best of 2025 list to go through and I will look forward to it. So Rumi says, yeah, after this ends, I think that I'm going to read more than I wanted, but right now I can't. So maybe like an hour or so. Okay. All right, Rumi. I will look forward to hearing from you tomorrow about what you read, how much more you read, and how you find it. So you don't have to tell me the story. Just tell me that you're loving it. If you are. So thank you so much to everyone who has been here to right now. It is 1:11 in New York City. And we're signing off for today because I have to run out. I have to go do some errands. I think I have a book to pick up at the library as well, and it may be close to the day when, if I don't pick it up from the reserve shelf, they will send it back. So I need to go do that. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for spending a part of your day with me. I hope you enjoy the reading sprint. Let me know in the comments if you watch this later and you participate by reading during the time where I was reading. Then let me know what you read and how you found it. And so I'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And until then, until next time, Rumi says 303 in total, but about the book, it's 298. Nice. All right. See you tomorrow. Happy reading. Bye. Oh, this is so cool. It is 1:11 and we've been on here for 1 hour and 11 minutes. Oh, that's so cool. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye.